Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. Oh, it is just Marco here once again, and I know you're wondering, Marco, why? Why did you watch this movie? Well, I do have a legitimate reason that I will tell you. But it's because I hate this guy's movies. Zack Snyder, he's terrible at making movies in terms of writing, in terms of like even though he has really good cinematography, he's terrible with like, oh, let's make everything slow motion, and now he's gotten to the point where he's almost become like this cult leader because like he pulled the same shit with Justice League where this movie came out and people didn't like it, even though the first Justice League was way better than his. And then he's like, "Oh well, the reason why it's bad is because there's a director's cut, and that one's a lot better. And you guys just have to trust me that that one's a lot better. And that one didn't get released because I'm poor little victim Zack Snyder, and I got sacked. Wah. And then that piece of shit fucking 4-hour fuck thing came out, and I got a root canal the same day that I saw that movie, and getting the root canal was a more enjoyable experience than watching that fucking movie. That's how fucking bad it was. And then the same year, Army of the Dead comes out. That movie was so bad, I turned it off like 15 minutes in. And the reason why, I'll explain again because I am proud to defend the fact that I turned that piece of shit off. Usually in zombie movies, part of what makes them good a lot of the times is that you'll have that one character who's pretty evil, like Cooper from Night of the Living Dead, and the whole movie he's always at odds with the good characters, and the good character and the bad character, they're so stuck fighting each other that they don't think about, well, we got to fight these zombies too. And I always really liked that type of character, and Army of the Dead, they just get rid of that character like 15 minutes in, and so I thought, fuck it, I'm not finishing that. And I was originally not going to watch this movie either, this Rebel Moon movie. I was like, no thank you. I do not, I know that I'm not going to like it probably, so I'm not going to watch it. But I just couldn't resist, honestly. I couldn't resist because I got to be 100% honest. And I know that this is going to sound like, Marco, that is a terrible reason to watch a movie. But for me, it's not a terrible reason. It's just something that I would do, as you guys should probably know by now. But I kept on seeing that fine Sophia Boutella is fucking Cora on the posters and in the trailers and the images. And I was like, there is just like, I am just completely drawn into her. Like, she is probably one of the sexiest movie characters I've seen all year. And so I am just going to watch this movie so that I can stare at her for two and a half fucking hours. That is literally the only reason I watched this movie. And I got to admit, like, as much as I hated it and thought it was pretty bad, I did kind of enjoy it a little bit sometimes just because, like, I just, like, wow. Like, I was taken back at first because I kept on seeing these pictures of this Cora character, and I was like, who is that? Like, is she like a magical creature or something? Like, is she like a unicorn? Or that, like, I've never heard of her before? And then I looked and I'm like, oh shit, that is the actress from The Mummy. That terrible Mummy movie that I suffered through? That Mummy movie is worse than this, I will admit. So, you guys can, be happy with that. That is definitely way worse than this. And I was like, wow, that's her? And so I was like, okay, I gotta watch this. So that is the only reason I watched this movie. Full disclosure. And it started off like it could have been good if it had a better script. Like if you pull back and you think about, how this movie was made. Well, originally Zack Snyder, he went to the Star Wars people and he asked if he could make this movie in the Star Wars universe. And they said, "Fuck you." And he was like, "Okay, fuck you too. I'm going to Netflix." And Netflix said, "Here's a shit ton of money that you don't deserve based on your terrible track record with your terrible movies. Have fun, do whatever you want." And he made this. And he not only made this, but he made the sequel as well. He shot them back to back. I mean, how lucky can you get as a filmmaker to just do whatever you want? You get this full sandbox, get all this money, millions and millions of dollars, do whatever you want. And he makes this. And I gotta say, like, those Star Wars people, they've destroyed Star Wars. They're terrible at doing Star Wars, but the only good thing that they've ever done is they said no to Rebel Moon. Okay? Like that you should put that on a t-shirt too. Like, instead of saying no to drugs, put saying no to Rebel Moon, because, like, trust me, it's not worth it. Like, I did enjoy staring at this Korra character, because honestly, like, they really, like, a couple of things were good in this movie, and one of the things is, even though she was a terrible character, because, like, the way that she was just able to fight all these, like, 300-pound, 200-pound men with no, it was ridiculous. She's like this tiny little woman, and she's able to do that. That was one of the stupidest things about the movie, but I gotta say, like, they really wasted the potential of, like, what could have been a really cool, like, female sci-fi character, because she's got a really good, like, character design, like that cloak and the hairstyle, and she's extremely sexy, and she's looks amazing, but her character is terrible, and pretty much all the characters in this movie are terrible. And I guess she's the least terrible. No, actually, no, she's not. The least terrible thing about this movie, before I destroy this movie beyond recognition, the only thing where I was like, whoa, cool, was the robot. And that is pretty hilarious, that in this movie, with all these people, and you have all these characters, it's like an ensemble, a team of some kind, that going up against the rebellion, basically Star Wars ripoff. The best character was the robot. They had this really cool robot at the beginning of the movie, played by Anthony Hopkins, and he had like a character arc within like 10 minutes. So yeah, it was pretty rushed. It was pretty bad. I would say, I guess, like, maybe someone else should have written the script for this movie. Maybe there were some good ideas sprinkled around, but maybe somebody who's good at writing should have written the script instead of, sacked Snyder. But yeah, I really loved the robot character. I really thought that I was excited to see more of him. And I thought, maybe I'm going to like this movie. I'm not turning it off. Because I'm turned on. But anyways, everything else about this movie, though, is terrible. Like, and I gotta say, too, like, Zack Snyder has a real obsession with rape. Like, that I was so, like, irritated by, like, even though, look, rape is realistic in these types of situations, I understand, lots of people are being raped all the time right now, and there's nothing we can do about it except say that's wrong, and the people who do it should be punished. And then if you see it happening, you obviously step in like Cora did and do something about it. But the problem is that he is really obsessed with rape. Like, I remember back in the day, there was a quote they talked about on Screen Junkies, back when Screen Junkies was good, before they fired Andy for no reason. And they said, and Zack Snyder said, maybe in my version of Batman could get raped in prison. And I thought, like, that was a really weird thing. And I just think it's like a part of his edgelord tendencies is that, like, rape is a very, like, edgelord type of thing to happen in a movie or show. If it's done right, like, if it's done, like, in a proper, like, story and it makes sense, it can be very effective. But if it's done like he likes to do it, it just comes off as, like he's got a real weird obsession with rape. Like, really, really weird. And another thing is, obviously, as I said earlier, Cora is this tiny little woman. And somehow she is able to just overpower all these huge men. The fighting sequences in this movie, regardless of if she's fighting or not, the fighting sequences are terrible. And I was really surprised by that because, Zack Snyder, for all the shit that I will give him all the time, the warehouse scene in Batman v Superman is phenomenal. And, that's probably the best action scene Batman has ever had in a movie or show. And, I thought, based on that, he should be able to direct action and make good action scenes, but no. That first action scene where Cora fights off the gang rapists, it is a awful, awful action sequence. That they put it in slow motion. Like, that's another thing. He's obsessed with slow motion. Unnecessary slow motion. Like, one of the stupidest things was there was this one part where, like, Cora and all these people were spreading these seeds all over the ground or something, and they did a slow motion shot of the seeds falling on the ground. And I was like, oh, come on. Is that why this movie's 2.5 hours? Is that why? So the story is very paint by the numbers. It's one of those stories where the whole time I was like, I've seen that before. I've seen that before. I've seen this before. Not in a good way, in a bad way, in a very bad way. And I gotta say too, like, I'm getting tired of the movies where, like, the whole story is about, like, there's a villain and a hero guy, and the hero guy is like, I gotta get a team together. And they go to one place and they get someone to help them. They go to another place and they get someone else to help them. And, like, the whole movie is about, like, I gotta get the team together. And then at the end of the movie, they face off with the bad guy. And it's like, I'm getting sick and tired of that movie, unless it's done really well. And I'll give you an example of when it's done really well, because I bet you guys don't know where I'm going with this. Mystery Men. That is a great, great movie. And it's satirical, too, so it's not even trying to be serious like Rebel Moon is. But that is a great movie where they, quote-unquote, get the team together. And it's all about building the team, and the team fights against the bad guy. And that movie's awesome. Go watch Mystery Men. I want to watch it right now, actually, just talking about it. Like, I'm so sad that I spent 2.5 hours watching this movie so I could creepily stare at this main character, and when instead I could have watched Mystery Men. See, guys? Say no to Rebel Moon. The bad effects of Rebel Moon will continue forever. They'll change your life, terrible. So, yeah, like, she just recruits all these characters that are all really uninteresting, and you don't give a shit about them at all. And then some of them die near the end, and it's like, yeah, who cares? Because I don't care about these characters. They were never interesting. They were never likable. They're just aesthetic characters where they have like a specific cool wardrobe and a cool weapon that they use, and so it's like, oh, they're cool, and yeah, they're aesthetic characters where they're not fully developed characters. They're just like surface level characters that are just like dressed up mannequins, basically. And the villain in this movie is terrible. He's really goofy and over the top. For a little while, I thought I was watching Sisu again. Sisu, probably one of the worst movies of the year. That movie had these just insanely over the top, boring, goofy Nazi stereotypes. That's exactly what this movie has. They're just like boring, over the top, goofy characters. They have their, thick European accents that they're trying to chew up the scenery and, be as over the top as possible so you can't take them seriously. And yeah, it's terrible. Terrible. And this movie just kept on going and going and going. And I kept on looking at the time. I checked the time like 20 times in this movie because I just wanted it to end because it was getting so repetitive and so lame. And there's this one character and he becomes a traitor near the end. And I was like, yeah, who cares? Like, we barely knew his character. Like, it's kind of believable that this character where he joins the team, like, within a minute. Like, they walk into this saloon place, basically the cantina from Star Wars, the good Star Wars, the old Star Wars, before Disney ruined it. And they're like, we're looking for information stuff and team members and weapons and spaceships. And then all of a sudden, she picks a fight with this monster guy. And the monster, this monster guy, he looked like straight out of Bright. Like, remember that awful Netflix movie, Bright? Like, that's what he looked like he came out of. Maybe Bright is connected to this shitty movie's universe. And so she picks a fight with him, and then they once again get into this battle with these bad guys and the monster. And another bad thing about this movie is that you have these two fights, and both of them end in the exact same way, where at the end of the rapist fight, there was a standoff, and then a character unexpectedly comes in and saves the day and shoots the bad guy. And in this cantina sequence, the exact same thing happens where there's a standoff at the end, and then an unexpected character saves the day, and it's like, wow. See, this is why I should have had someone else write it. And but I have a feeling that Zack Snyder wouldn't want that to happen because, he's the greatest, and, all of his followers will say this movie's good regardless if it's good or not. So, yeah, it sucks. And there were so many things that were, like, ripping off Star Wars, too. Like, I understand that, like, he wanted to do his own, like, Star Wars, like, fan fiction thing where it's inspired off of Star Wars, but it just ended up being, like, really too close to Star Wars. Like, they had this one character, she's one of the lamest characters of the movie, and she literally uses lightsabers, and, like, they never even explain what these things are. It's almost like he knows that the audience will know that they're lightsabers, and he's trying to be, like, really cutesy and clever about it because, he's making his little Star Wars fan fiction and everything. And then also, spoiler alert, I don't give a fuck about spoilers. I mean, this movie's terrible. Don't watch it. Ignore it. Ignore its existence. If you want to stare at Korra like I wanted to do, and get the poster for this movie and stare at it for 2.5 hours, and you'll get the exact same experience that you got watching this movie. And I'm speaking from experience here. I didn't stare at the poster for 2.5 hours, but I basically felt like I did. Like, you know that episode of Leave It to Beaver where Wally and Beaver, they sneak into the good movie, the voodoo movie, Voodoo Curse, and then the parents are like, "Did you see Pinocchio?" And they lie and pretend that they saw Pinocchio, and what they really did was they stared at the poster for a couple minutes so that they could be like, "Yeah, we saw Pinocchio." That's what this movie's like. Like, just stare at the poster. Of course, edit out everyone else, because you don't want to look at everyone else, because they suck. Their characters are trash, like everything else in this movie. And yeah. But spoiler alert, the main villain is not actually the General Basilabius. It's actually a guy above him, and I guess he's the king or something. And I have no idea who played him. I think it's Cary Elwes, but I'm not really sure because I couldn't tell. But it kind of looked a little like Cary Elwes, and they do the exact same thing where Cora is the daughter of the king. So in other words, the main villain, the Darth Vader character, is the parent of the main hero, protagonist, the Luke Skywalker character of this movie. And there are so many other similarities to Star Wars, it's kind of embarrassing, honestly. Like, the more I think about it, and this is coming from someone who hasn't watched Star Wars in a long time, because Star Wars was ruined for me with the Force Awakens and with Disney and what they did to Star Wars, and so I don't even want to think about it anymore. But even I could see, like, the blatant copycat stuff in this movie. And oh yeah, I guess another thing would be, let's just rip the Band-Aids off with, like, also they had this shitty character, Blood Axe, and he's played by this really shitty diva actor, Ray Fisher, who, like, he's just a giant crybaby bitch, and he's a terrible actor too. And he's basically like, you know how Jonathan Majors got canceled, and it was, like, really sad because, he literally didn't do anything wrong, and they have video evidence that he didn't do anything wrong, and he still got canceled. Like, well, that guy had talent, but, like, this guy is, like, a similar type of character where he has this very theatrical persona. Like, they're both very theatrical actors who are, like, really, over the top. But, like, this guy in Rebel Moon, he is the one who should have been canceled. I wish he would have hooked up with a Karen White girl, and then the Karen White girl canceled him or something, because, like, he just sucks. And his character comes in this movie, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll join your cause because I'm a badass and I'm Ray Fisher, and, accountability over entertainment." And then 10 minutes later, he sacrifices himself and he gets killed like a bitch. And his character, it's like, oh, who cares? Like, we barely even knew of that character's existence. Like, he wasn't even an actual character. He was like a little side, like a little cameo character, because, Zack Snyder's the only one who worked with him. That character was terrible. That whole thing with the, oh no, the good guy sacrificing himself. It's like, that only works if you know the good character and you care about them, and you're like, no, don't do that. But instead, I was like, go ahead, go for it, pal. I don't give a flying fuck what happens to you. Like, frankly, like, your character was trash. There's no development. There's no character at all. So who cares? Like, he's an expendable. Like, they're all expendable except for fucking Cora, because if she dies, there's no one to stare at anymore, and I'm turning off the movie. And I'm not kidding, by the way, too. Like, if they kill her off in the sequel, I'm turning it off. Or if they kill off the robot, Because the robot, he was the best thing. And this movie, it started off, and for like 25 minutes, I was like, is this going to be a good movie? Excuse me, sorry. And all of a sudden, the rape came, and after the movie took the rape turn, that was when the movie got bad. And then at the end of the movie, like, they have several, like, movie cliches, too, that are, like, really, like, tired at this point. And one of them is where you have a character, the main character, and they're sliding into the closing door. You know, like, how many times have we seen that cliche before, where you have, like, the door closing and then the character has to slide under it, and it's really close, and it's like, oh no, it's gonna happen, ah! Well, she doesn't. She accomplishes it, of course, because there's nothing that Cora can't accomplish except for being a likable character and being a good character. So then she has this little face-off with General Basago, and they're literally copying the Star Wars battle at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. Or was it Empire Strikes Back? I can't remember. Sorry, I've only seen those movies like 2 or 3 times because, they're really good, and I have a photographic memory, so, I and then, of course, the whole Disney thing happened, and I probably should go watch them again. But the battle where Darth Vader and Luke are on that tower in the middle of the thing, and Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand, and Luke almost dies, and he says, "Luke, I am your father." Like, they basically kind of ripped that off in terms of, like, they made this set look almost exactly the same as that set, except it looked like shit because it's a Zack Snyder movie, so everything looks like shit. Like, because that's the thing, even though he's really good at cinematography, he's really bad at, like, making movies look good because, he's got to suck the color out of everything, so all the color in this movie is sucked out of the picture, like, it looks terrible in terms of that. And then everything just looks so generic. Like, the movie, what it reminds me of is, like, on YouTube, they have like royalty-free footage of, like, these landscapes in Europe, and they do the same thing where, like, they suck out all the color so that it'll look like a quote-unquote real movie looks. And that's what this movie looks like. It just looks terrible. It's so ugly to look at. The characters are ugly except for Cora. And just everything in this movie is just ugly as hell. But yeah. She kills the villain. She kills General Basago. And then they save him. And that's another thing with this movie, is that it has like 20 endings. So, like, when you think this movie's going to end finally and you're, like, going to get to move on with your life and enjoy your life, all of a sudden, Zack Snyder is like, nope, sorry, there's another ending, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, because he doesn't know how to edit himself, because he's a shitty writer. Because what I feel, too, is it's almost like all these endings could have been post-credit scenes or mid-credit scenes, but he wants to force you to have to watch it because he thinks so highly of his shitty work, and so, like, he didn't want to put it in the credits or after the credits, because he wanted to force you to have to watch it so you could suffer through it, and so you could, be on the brink of death by the end of it because it's so fucking bad. And so General Baskobagaba meets with the bad guy, the Darth Vader character, and he says, "Go get Cora, or else you're gonna be fucked." And then he leaves and he goes to get Cora. Very, very cliche. But when they bring him back to life, it's very similar to when they bring Superman back to life in Justice League, the shitty Justice League version, not the good one. Well, actually, they were both bad, but like the 2017 version was slightly better because it was edited down and the team felt more like a team. And I won't get into that right now, but I think I did a review. But if not, whatever. I'm just saying. But they say hit them with everything we got. Like how many times have we seen that before? Like, like where you have something or like where you have a character or like a machine that's not working and they're like, hit them with everything we got. And the dialogue in this movie is just as bad as that cliche line. Like, there's so many bad lines of dialogue in this movie. At a certain time, though, like, I was just completely checked out. But there were lots of times throughout the movie where I was starting to, like, repeat the lines after they were said and then kind of laugh at them because I was just so, like, irritated that I was watching this movie. It was almost like Cora, like she put a force hold on me, or she Jedi mind controlled me into watching the full movie, because like I swear I don't know why I didn't turn this fucking movie off. I suffered through the whole thing. What an idiotic decision. It was very similar to the Miracle on 34th Street 90s version, where that movie started off and I thought this could be really good. And then all of a sudden, boom, the rape came. But like, no, that nobody got raped in Miracle on 34th Street, or at least I hope. Because we all know what Hollywood is like. Hollywood loves rape, especially raping of children. That's what Hollywood is known for right now, basically. As of now. So anyways, I would recommend staying the hell away from this movie. And what do you know? There is apparently like a 4-hour version of this trash. And apparently it's really, really good. And you just have to trust him that it's really, really good. And you know what, guys? As sad as it is, I'll probably watch it so that I can stare at Cora for 2 more hours. Like, that is just... I know, it's really sad, but I just can't help it. Like, honestly, like, I've only got a couple of movies left to watch for the year, and... yeah. Sometimes, too, I just feel like, even though I don't want to watch something... like, I kind of have to a little bit as a reviewer, even though, like, I don't really, I'm not really a reviewer for the long haul, but I do feel like I have to be informed and watch certain things, and so I did it, I accomplished it, and so in terms of food, this movie reminded me a lot of Papa John's when Papa John's is bad. Papa John's is a restaurant where it can be really, really good. You can go there. You can get your Cool Ranch Papadilla. You can get your Wisconsin 6-cheese pizza with ranch on the side. You can get your Sprite, but there are certain times where Papa John's is bad, where it's really, really bad. And I don't know why it is. I don't know, like, if there's some sort of a curse on their restaurant where, like, certain times they can be really good, but then other times they're going to be really bad. But there are some times where you go there and you question why you would ever go there in the first place. And that's what this movie is for me. So I would give it, what I would get from Papa John's would be, we always used to get like a half cheese, half pepperoni, large or medium pizza with a soda, which I don't really drink. I only drink one soda a month. Currently, for like a special occasion type thing. I'm not really into soda anymore anyway. I actually prefer water. So yeah, it's a half cheese, half pepperoni pizza, and one of the problems that Papa John's has is that they don't put enough sauce in the pizza. So you have to ask for extra sauce. Well, miraculously, sometimes, even when you ask for extra sauce, they still don't give you extra sauce. They can't even handle that. So you'll still get fucked up, and you'll still get this pizza that's really dry. It's overdone. It doesn't taste like anything. It tastes like cardboard crap, and they didn't put any sauce on it. And then the crust, a lot of the times Papa John's crust is very, very overdone, and it just tastes like cardboard, and you really have to tear it apart too. It's like a struggle to even eat. And that's what this movie is. It's just like this bad pizza where you're thinking like, I'm going to have fun. It's going to be pizza night, getting pizza, soda, and then all of a sudden you look at the pizza and it smells really good because, pizza always smells really good for the most part. But then you take a big bite into it. You take a big bite into the Papa John's pizza. And what happens? A tooth comes out. And I'll tell you guys something. That actually happened to me once as a kid. It was a Wednesday night. It was a Thursday night. And I was playing Predator Concrete Jungle, eating some Papa John's pizza. I would only eat like a piece or two. And all of a sudden, in the middle of eating that Papa John's that was really bad, a tooth came out. And don't worry, it was a baby tooth. It was going to come out anyway, but it was a terrible experience. It was very scary. So that's what this movie is. It's an awful, awful waste of time. It's bad Star Wars, and Star Wars has already gotten really bad, so that's saying something. And I'll say this too. Everything that Star Wars has done in the recent past is still better than this. This movie is just so generic. Look, they've done that story a million times, the Seven Samurai thing, where you assemble a team. But maybe with the right script writer, this movie could have actually been really good. Like maybe if Zack Snyder would have just pulled back and said, look, I got some good ideas here, but I'm not going to take a risk here because I know that I really suck as a filmmaker, so I need to make a good movie before Hollywood finally cuts the plug. Because honestly, I don't know why he is still being given millions and millions of dollars. I guess because Hollywood knows that he has a cult who just worships the ground he walks on. So it's guaranteed money. They'll buy all the Blu-rays and they'll pretend like it's the next, the next Citizen Kane of whatever, like they do with all of his other movies. But yeah, very, very bad. Definitely one of the worst movies of the year. So please like this video and comment. This was kind of an unplanned video, so, excuse me for it being a little scatterbrained and chaotic. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews like this. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.